What if the monster you fear most is wearing your face? Behind every war crime, every act of cruelty, every betrayal that haunts history books, there was a human being. A person who, like you, believed they were in control of their choices. But what if we aren't as free as we think? What if the unconscious patterns buried in our psyche, our shadow, as Carl Jung called it, are silently scripting our darkest moments? Welcome to the haunting paradox of human nature. This is not just a psychological inquiry. It's an existential confrontation with the crisis of identity, morality, and the invisible forces that shape what we call the self. Before we go deeper, I invite you to pause. Take a breath. If this question stirs something in you, if it makes you curious, uncomfortable, or even angry, subscribe to the channel, like this video, comment your reflections below, and share it with someone who dares to look beyond appearances. This is not content. This is an awakening. A guided descent into the hidden architecture of our own mind. Today, we dive into the legacy of Philip Zimbardo and his infamous Stanford Prison Experiment, but not to point fingers. Instead, to turn the lens inward. Because what happened in that basement in 1971 is an ancient history. It's a mirror. And we'll explore how this mirror reflects our potential for both cruelty and compassion, and how recognizing this duality might be the key to liberation. You may believe you're immune to the corruption of power. That you'd never lose yourself in a uniform, a label, a role. But so did they. What turns a mind into a weapon? What awakens the predator within the prey? What happens when we stare into the abyss, and realize it's been staring back? Stay with me. The descent has only begun. Why do we sabotage what we most long for? Why do we run from the silence that could heal us? These aren't questions of weakness, they are clues. Clues to an ancient conflict buried beneath our modern distractions. Carl Jung called it the shadow, the disowned parts of ourselves we exile to the basement of our psyche. But what we repress doesn't disappear. It festers. And in moments of stress, fear, or anonymity, it takes the wheel. The Lucifer effect is not about demons outside of us. It's about the dormant potential for destruction within us all, waiting, just waiting, for the right conditions to awaken. Nietzsche once said, "He who fights with monsters should be careful lest he thereby become a monster." The irony? The harder we try to be good, to wear the mask of morality, the more violently our hidden instincts push back. In our desire to belong, to please, to appear virtuous, we bury the unacceptable aspects of ourselves, rage, lust, envy, grief. But these rejections don't vanish. They become internal saboteurs, acting out not through conscious intent, but through invisible patterns, passive aggression, addiction, manipulation, self-destruction. We become prisoners of an identity we never fully chose. The participants in Zimbardo's experiment didn't enter that mock prison as monsters. They entered as students. Ordinary young men. But stripped of accountability and immersed in a symbolic role, their behavior morphed. The guards became cruel. The prisoners submissive, or rebellious. What changed? Not their DNA. Not their soul. What changed was the environment, and the unleashing of archetypal roles already coded in the psyche. Viktor Frankl reminded us that between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space lies our freedom. But most of us live so unconsciously that we never find that space. We react. We conform. We repeat. Arthur Schopenhauer believed that much of human suffering comes not from life itself, but from our resistance to what is. We fear looking inward because we're terrified of what we might find. But healing doesn't come from avoidance. It comes from integration. From recognizing that the darkness inside us is not a curse, it's a call. A call to awareness. To transformation. To responsibility. Until we face the parts we've exiled, they will continue to rule us from the shadows. We think we are free, but we are following scripts written by trauma, culture, and fear. Scripts we never questioned. Until now. Look closer, that habit you can't break. That relationship you keep sabotaging. That constant pull toward distraction, addiction, or emotional numbness, is it really just weakness? Or is it a signal from something deeper, something unresolved? Gabor Maté teaches us that addiction is not the search for pleasure, but the escape from pain. So ask yourself, what pain have you been running from? What story from your childhood still echoes in your silence? The enemy isn't out there. It's not your job, your ex, society, or even the pressures of the modern world. The battlefield is internal. It's the structure of your own psyche, the neglected parts, the unhealed wounds, the roles you were taught to play just to feel safe, loved, or acceptable. Jung reminds us, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Most of what we call personality is just a mask, a survival strategy. But who are you underneath it? You say you want freedom. But do you really? Freedom demands responsibility. And responsibility means facing the very parts of yourself you've spent a lifetime avoiding. The fear. The anger. The shame. The grief. These aren't enemies. They are parts of you, longing to be seen, integrated, and healed. Until that happens, they'll continue to rule your decisions from the shadows, like unseen puppeteers pulling your strings. We live in a world obsessed with external solutions. More money, better routines, the next goal. But transformation begins when we stop asking, what can I fix out there, and start asking, what am I not willing to feel in here? True power begins not when we conquer others, but when we confront the tyrant within. That inner voice that whispers, you're not enough. That persona that performs instead of connects. That fear that keeps you small, predictable, familiar. This is not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming whole. Jung believed the goal of life is not to become good, but to become complete. To integrate the shadow, not repress it. To understand that your darkness does not make you broken, it makes you human. The real danger is not the shadow itself, but our refusal to face it. And until we do, we'll continue to play out the same loops, call them bad luck, and wonder why nothing ever truly changes. There is no shortcut through the darkness. No three-step formula to enlightenment. But there is a path. And it begins with a decision so subtle, most miss it, the decision to stop running. To stop blaming. To turn inward, not as an escape, but as an act of radical responsibility. Because the moment you stop asking, why is this happening to me, and begin asking, what is this revealing in me? Everything shifts. That's where transformation begins. To look within is not an act of weakness, it's an act of courage. It means sitting with your discomfort instead of numbing it. It means tracing your fears not to their surface triggers, but to their origins, often buried in childhood, in silence, in unmet needs. Gabor Maté reminds us that trauma isn't what happens to you, it's what happens inside you as a result of what happened. Healing, then, isn't just remembering the past. It's reparenting the parts of you that were left behind. When you begin to welcome what was once rejected, your anger, your sadness, your unmet longing, you stop being at war with yourself. The mask drops. The defenses soften. And in that moment of honest presence, you catch a glimpse of something extraordinary, not perfection, but wholeness. Carl Jung called this the process of individuation, becoming who you truly are, not who the world told you to be. And that process begins not in success, but in surrender. Not in fixing yourself, but in facing yourself. It won't be linear. The same patterns will try to seduce you again. The old roles will whisper comfort. But now you'll see them for what they are, echoes. Not truth. You may still feel fear, but it won't control you. You may still feel doubt, but it won't define you. With awareness comes choice. And with choice comes freedom. The very freedom most people spend their lives avoiding, because it demands responsibility. This is the real alchemy, not turning lead into gold, but turning unconscious pain into conscious growth. It's not about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you were before the world taught you to forget. The Lucifer effect teaches us how easy it is to fall. But it also shows us that awareness is the beginning of rising. Of reclaiming our agency. And of choosing, moment by moment, to become more than our conditioning. Not saints. Not monsters. But conscious, integrated human beings. There are no final answers here, only deeper questions. And perhaps that's where real transformation begins, not in solving the mystery of who we are, but in living it more consciously. The Lucifer effect is not just a story about others, it's a reflection of our shared human condition. And the more honestly we confront our own contradictions, the more compassion we cultivate, for ourselves and for the world. So today, as you move through your ordinary routines, pay attention. Notice the moments you withdraw. The times you react without thinking. The patterns you justify as, just the way I am. Observe, not with judgment, but with curiosity. This is the beginning of awakening. Not through control, but through awareness. Freedom doesn't come when we escape the darkness. It comes when we turn toward it, gently, courageously, and see what it's been trying to teach us all along. If this reflection stirred something in you, don't let it fade. Like this video so it reaches others who may be wrestling with the same silent battles. Comment below with what resonated most. And share it with someone who, like you, is on the path of inner truth. The call to action isn't just to subscribe. It's to wake up. If this content spoke to you, watch the video appearing on your screen now. It might be exactly what your soul needed to hear today.